Hello friends, I'm Ashley, and today we're going to talk about all of the poetry I ended up reading by accident. Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. So this started off because I started reading Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo on audio, and if you don't know what Clap When You Land is about, it is a in-verse book told about two girls who lost their father in a plane crash, which Elizabeth Acevedo bases on a real plane crash that happened after 9/11, but because it was just an accident and not a terrorist attack, nobody really cared about it. But the two girls, one lives in New York and one lives in the Dominican Republic, and neither of them know about each other, but their entire family knows that they both exist. It's a very big embarrassment for the girl's mother who lives in New York, because she married the man first and then he went and married her best friend in the Dominican Republic, and they both ended up having daughters 2 months apart, and it's just their story about learning about each other. There's a lot of grief. They also talk about rape culture quite a bit. If it's a trigger for you, I highly recommend just being aware of that. The girl in the Dominican Republic has a man stalking her, and everyone kind of blames her for it. They think that she's somehow asking for his attention when she's extremely frightened by him. And the girl in New York talks about the casual sexual assault that seems to always happen to her going home on the train. Elizabeth Acevedo makes every word, every letter, important. So any type of emotion and any type of feeling that Elizabeth Acevedo is talking about, you feel deeply. So that's what I said, if you're at all triggered, it's a lot. I honestly almost DNF'd because sexual assault is a trigger for me, and it was quite a lot. It wasn't explicitly graphic, but like I said, the way Elizabeth Acevedo writes so beautifully and such strong emotion with every single syllable, it's a lot. But overall, I gave it 5 stars because it's a beautiful story. The ending is so wonderful. I can't even tell you. There's just this part where all of the characters come together and you just feel this power that they all have, this emotion, I don't know how to explain it without spoiling, but it's just the most beautiful moment of the entire book, and I highly recommend you pick it up. So the next book I read, which I loved, is a poetry book called Goddess of the Hunt by Shelby. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce her name. I apologize, but it is so beautiful. It has a little note to asexual people at the beginning of the book. If you don't know, I am asexual, and I almost cried. It is about Artemis, the goddess of the moon, and how she never wanted to fall in love with anybody, how she never had those feelings, how even after centuries and centuries of being alive, people still tell her, oh, when you grow up, you'll find someone, you just wait, you have to find that right person. And it's been thousands of years, and she's like, no, I just need myself. And how people can't handle strong women, and how people even blame her mother for giving birth to a strong woman. It was really beautiful. Again, there are some trigger warnings in this book, but this is one of those lovely books that has trigger warnings before you start. There's there'll be an author's note sometimes. Well, for this one there was some triggers, and I really appreciate that. I wish more books would do that. And then at the end of the book, the author is even though Rick Riordan doesn't know who I am, but thank you to him. My favorite quote from The Goddess of the Hunt is, I am mine and no one else's. I belong to my own heart, and my heart belongs to the moon. And I don't know, that just spoke to me so much. So the next poetry book I read is called Boy in Jeopardy by Ryan Douglas. It's very beautiful. It's about kind of growing up with racism and homophobia. There are letters addressed to the author's brother and father and lover, and there's also a bit of sexual assault in this book. It was just really beautiful. The rhythm to the words were just so, like, you could feel it. Like, you could feel the beat of the words while reading, if that makes sense. And I thought it was beautiful. The next book I read is called I Saw You as a Flower by Everett. This is like the book I liked the least amount. It talks a lot about abusive relationships and growing and falling in love with someone that's not abusive, and that's fine. It was moving nonetheless. It's just like it had some really good quotes. Like, my favorite was, "Sometimes I am not the princess. I am the dragon, and every now and then I burn myself with my own fire." And like, there were just like really good moments like that, but then there were like really strange writings. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't terrible. I think if you liked that Milk and Honey poetry book, you'll probably like this one, but I didn't really like that Milk and Honey poetry book. So the next one I read is Small Ghost by Trisha Matter, and I read Aphrodite Made Me Do It a few months back, and I loved that book so much, so I really wanted to read this book too. There were some like pulp culture references in this book, which I thought was interesting. It talks about Glee, Instagram, and Twitter, and I don't know, I didn't hate it, but I could have done without it. Like, I loved this book. It was very beautiful. This book was about depression, and like the ghost was a metaphor for depression the entire time, and how the ghost controls your life, but you don't control your life, and it's like two separate entities. And I thought that was a very good metaphor. And this is like one of my favorite author's notes. Like, right at the beginning, it said, "For anyone who feels like they'd rather pull the sheet over their head and play dead than get out of bed in the morning." And I was like, that's me every day. So yeah, that was my time with poetry. It was so beautiful and so moving, and I've been kind of in a reading slump the last month, and this definitely helped that. I have always loved poetry. I just have had a really hard time finding it the last couple years because my library and like my Libby app doesn't have nearly anything unless it's like a really famous poetry, and I tend to not like very famous poetry or classic poetry because it's just like not for me. I really like modern poetry. I'm really glad I was able to get Kindle Unlimited because everything except Clap When You Land was on Kindle Unlimited, and there's like so much more poetry on Kindle Unlimited, and I want to get through all of it. I really wanted to read some more, but I told myself I should probably wait. The last book, I was starting to feel like they were all kind of blending together, and I didn't want to lessen the value of a poetry book, like, if that makes sense. But yeah, I had a really good time. I am definitely going to continue to find new poetry to read, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sleep because I sleep when I'm not in front of the camera. Bye!